The key to analyzing mastery data is collecting assessment data tagged to curriculum standards. This is why in level 1, I focused on finding and or creating quizzes where each question had an associated skill, as we can see here. So here is the first of two potential scenarios. Each question in the quiz may have the same skill attached. Often we do this when we can isolate a single skill and then pepper the students with related questions all at once, but in a variety of ways. We might see this in content-heavy science courses or in courses that can have more easily compartmentalized skills, such as in math or world language. But of course, we can see it in just about any subject. The general idea is the skill we are assessing is to some extent foundational to future skills and concepts. The question then becomes, how do we figure out what to do before moving forward? Well, remember that the data from each quiz gives you the information needed to pinpoint to what extent the skill needs to be reviewed. In other words, you can immediately begin to piece together what exactly needs to be addressed within this specific skill because all the questions in the quiz are tagged to the same skill. So Quizalize can provide the quiz data, but you need to also collaborate with your state and school resources to determine if this is a skill that needs to be reinforced immediately before you go on to the next skill, or if you can set it aside temporarily before moving on. I say temporarily because we're not simply going to forget this skill. We will easily be able to access these results at a later date if necessary, for example, if this skill is foundational to a skill that is covered later in the school year. There is a second scenario which may present itself. It's difficult or even potentially counterproductive to assess an isolated skill. This is common in English classes, which rely on reading comprehension within a diverse passage, although almost all subjects have one reason or another to assess a variety of skills within a single quiz. Individual quiz data can be used to isolate these skills and then address weaknesses before moving forward. So this view is an invaluable view for analyzing multi-skill quizzes and breaking down which skills are weak and which skills are strong within that single quiz. Up to this point, we've covered dozens of ways we can make the most of individual assessment data, but we haven't yet discussed the aggregated data that we can see in our mastery dashboards. In both scenarios discussed, whether we assess using single skill quizzes or with multi-skill quizzes, having access to this aggregated data will help us make more informed decisions as we progress through the school year. It is again very handy if you consult with your PLCs and curriculum coaches to gain insights into how skills are related to one another, and then use the data from the mastery dashboards to target whole class and individual student interventions that are most needed. Let's take a quick detour to look at how most districts currently handle aggregated curriculum-aligned assessment data, if they do so at all. Often, a benchmark assessment is drafted, requiring time, resources, and materials, and then students are either pulled out of a class into a high-stakes testing situation, or there's a widespread coordination across all classrooms. This eats into valuable instructional time. The tests need to be collected, scanned, and/or graded, and the data is analyzed in PLCs or district-wide meetings to determine what steps need to be taken. And let's also not forget that this data can potentially be used to evaluate you as an educator. Eventually, the faculty is given a set of directives on which to focus their interventions. Some topics and skills are flagged for reteaching or some other type of focus, and the district may or may not provide additional resources to help address those issues. Some weeks or perhaps months later, another benchmark assessment is given, and only then do you get to see whether those interventions were even successful. So in the end, there are only a handful of times within the school year when teachers have access to meaningful data that can help improve student outcomes. Well, the real-time Quizalize quiz data, in addition to aggregated mastery data, helps fill in those gaps so you can make the necessary adjustments in a more timely manner. Let's dig into the dashboards to see how. You may recall being asked to create courses to attach to each of your classes. Well, when you view your mastery dashboards, you have another opportunity to add these courses. And by course, we mean top level curricula, grade level, and subject. Here we see a variety of courses pertaining to North Carolina Grade 4. In fact, you might notice that I have also included a Grade 3 course as well. That is, if I anticipate assessing my students in Grade 3 skills, and it may help address foundational skills from those previous years that may be holding students back. Clicking on any course gives us a top-level view of the class. What can we get out of this? So let's cut out some of the data and pretend it's earlier in the school year. Are we happy with a class-wide mastery of 68% before moving ahead to other topics? How can we provide targeted review to individual students and to the entire class? We can click on the topic and drill down further. So if we were to provide targeted support, what might we focus on? We might engage in a whole class review of the weakest standards across the class by creating mixed groups for an intervention activity. By clicking here on any skill, we are presented with some options to find more quiz content containing the skill or creating a new quiz to see if there is improvement. Alternatively, we could differentiate our classroom into groups based on common weaknesses or give the stronger students a stretch activity. So let's fast forward in the school year. As we prepare to review or move forward from another set of skills, there are a few more options available to us. We can drill down into the topic we are currently teaching and learn which skills need to be reviewed. Or if we know a skill taught earlier in the school year is a foundational skill, it may even be worth drilling into an earlier topic as well. Again, it all depends on the guidance and resources available to you that pertain to your curriculum. Once you reach the end course content and begin preparing for maybe cumulative assessments or something of that nature, you also have a detailed snapshot of which topics and skills you need to reteach for the whole class and how to split up your students for a more targeted and differentiated review plan. And for teachers that assess multiple skills per assessment more frequently, it is more difficult for you to keep track of and pinpoint exactly on which skills students are struggling. So for you, the mastery dashboard will fill up more quickly, and the aggregated data will expose those weaknesses much sooner without any additional work on your part.